Hi guys, my name is Robin, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Roundtable Talk with Reflex. I'm joined here with co-hosts CJ, Saturn, and Fabian, and we're going to be having a great conversation for today's podcast. But before we get into anything, I'd like to ask how the week has been for you guys.
Hi guys, it's CJ, Cassie the K Diva. My week has been hectic, but good.
Hi guys, my name is Saturn. It has been very interesting.
No, the CJ. What happened to you? You have to just chat. My week it's the old year, still in the new year.
Alright, good. So Reflex, the Reflex blog is all about safer sex. We're always talking about safer sex. We're always talking about condom and lubricant use. And a big part of why we encourage people to use these items is to protect or to prevent themselves from contracting HIV, as well as to prevent themselves from also passing on the virus as well. And a lot of the questions that we get here are related to HIV. People always asking, would you date someone who is HIV positive? Would you get into a relationship with someone who is HIV positive? And we thought it was necessary for us to have a good conversation around that. Would you guys date someone who is HIV positive?
I would. I'm educated in the field, plus with disclosure, I'd know how to handle it. So yes.
I would, just as long as I use my condom and my water disclosure.
Guilty with exclamation, Your Honor. I would, but then I have my reservations. There are certain limits that I would not go with, whether or not, I have education and I know what to do, but there is a limit that I would just say, here, this far and no more.
So all of us are very educated. We know about HIV. We know how HIV is contracted. We know how to prevent the contraction of HIV as well. But personally, I would date someone who is HIV positive. I would go out with someone who is HIV positive. I'd go to the movies, to dinner. I would go out with them. I just think I'd cross the line when it comes on to certain levels of intimacy, which would be, kissing. Well, I'd kiss someone who is HIV positive. Let me put that out there. I just wouldn't have sex with someone who is HIV positive. I might have had sex with someone who is HIV positive who never told me, but it was with the proper items like condoms, water-based lubricants, stuff like that. But if I knew that the person was HIV positive, I would not have sex with that individual. I think that's where I cross the line.
I observed you mentioned something just now concerning intimacy. Mm-hmm. But for different persons, intimacy means different things. Like for me, kissing and all of that is not intimacy. That's a norm. That's everyday. Intimacy for me is sex. Once you mention intimacy, the first thing that comes to mind is sex. So, yes, I'd be intimate enough for sex, but certain sexual activities then I would not participate in. Even though I have the necessary tools to protect myself and to protect that individual, I still would not go to a certain extent to participate in certain sexual activities.
For me, I'd go past the whole intimacy thing, because it's with knowing what you're up against that you would be able to go about getting this done. It's not just only about the whole protecting yourself or having the knowledge too, but that's why I stated before disclosure. If somebody says to me, and mind you, Robin also said it, he might have had sex with someone who did not disclose what their status was. For me, it would have been the same. For any of us here and for many others, it would be just the same. But if I'm going to genuinely go in a relationship with someone who discloses to me that I am, then it would then be a discussion for us during our courting process to say, okay, these are the things that I'd love to do with you, but it's going to take time to actually get them done in terms of intimacy and past what is called kissing, which is the norm.
Well, for me, I think you should know the status of the person that you are dating.
You should know?
Yeah, you should. Mm-hmm. Reason being, this will help you determine whether you want to be with the person or whether you don't want to be with the person.
That's an ideal world scenario. You might not, the person will not disclose. A lot of people will not disclose. This is why they're afraid. Especially in Jamaica, because we've had that discussion before, not on this podcast, but we've definitely had a discussion around that before. It's ideal that they disclose, that people who are living with HIV disclose, but then when they are going to be faced with stigma and discrimination and all of that, they just won't go through that problem.
And I agree with you said in this ideal world. I think CJ here lives in, I don't know where she lives. I don't know where she's from. But where I am from, people don't court. That is through the door. That was years ago. These days, you don't find anybody courting. Courting is when my mother used to go to church and she met my father.
Objection!
Your Honor, sustain. And all these things are happening when people meet today and by next week they're into sex and all of that. People don't go through that long courtship where you have to find out all of that anymore.
Can I just correct you there?
Please do.
And just I'll shed a little light on that. Not everybody is the same, and call me old-fashioned. I would love to stay that way.
Call me old-fashioned.
That's why I say I'm classy with a K. I would love to get to know you before I lay with you.
Praise the Lord.
All right?
3 snaps for that, sweetie. 3 snaps. 3 snaps.
So for me, it is what it is, and if you're not up for that, then probably you will never be up for anything else that I will have wanting or want from the relationship. So that's where it comes into. It's not all about sex, and that's why we're finding everybody is just all about sex. At the end of the day, I would disclose my status to someone who I want to be, because it's not going to be, oh, it's a 2-month thing and then it's on to the next. It's not. I'm looking for something that is long term, and hopefully I might not be here in Jamaica, and if I am, I can still be 10 years, 15 years, 20 years with a partner of my choice. So then at the end of the day, it's all about that.
I think what's very important, and I think I have to share this with our listeners, I don't want the listeners to feel as though we're discriminating. It's a preference.
And it's a personal
So
preference.
we're not stigmatizing or discriminating against someone who is HIV positive by not dating them or not wanting to go that extra step, having sex with that individual. That's not discrimination. That's just a preference. Much like how on the dating sites people will say, look, I wouldn't want someone who is fat. I don't want someone who is very flamboyant. That's their preference, and that's not discrimination. They're just telling you upfront what they prefer. And it's the same for us. We're saying someone who is HIV positive, I would of course date them, but when it comes on to sex, I would not do that, and that's my preference.
Better, Robin, why not let us ask the listeners, would you guys date someone who is HIV positive?
Actually, that's something that we need to throw to them and let them answer. I'm sure they're going to be posting a lot of comments on the news.
Would you guys have sex with someone who is HIV positive? Oral sex, anal sex, I mean, the eating, the licking, the sticking, the whole thing. Would you go through that?
Eating, rimming, guys, tossing the vegetables, toss salad.
Would you guys go that extra mile? I mean, with someone HIV positive? I mean, I've been around persons who are HIV positive. I've ate from them. I've stayed at their house. We played. We wrestle. We do all of that. But I mean, when it comes on to sex for me means a lot, and it's very intimate. And when I say I would not go a certain limit, yes, I know your status. Yes, I know that, you're taking your medications, you're being very careful, you're healthy. But when it comes onto the bedroom, for some persons, they're bedroom bullies. Some people are bedroom sheep. But I like the bedroom bully stuff. So we are excited. We're on the bed, we're on the floor, we're against the wall.
You break everything.
But in all that excitement, it can slip me that guess what? This person may have a bruise on the penis or in the mouth. So avoid kissing until such time. And it's at that point that I'm most at risk. So rather than doing oral sex then with or without the proper tools, I'd just stay away from oral sex. That's just my preference.
Let me ask you a question, Fabian. You said that you don't want to do oral sex. So what is the problem? Because you are using a condom. So what is the problem?
When I'm excited, I tend to go above and beyond. And I don't want to go above and
therefore
beyond.
You cannot maintain self-control. Right?
It's not a self-control issue. It's just above and beyond. I can control myself if I need to. But when you get to the point where, let's say you're having sex and, in all the excitement with a partner that is not HIV positive, you're excited, you can just pop it out and pop it in. But when it comes on to
pop it in a condom and then pop on the lubricant, sweetie, and then you pop it in. And that's what you mean?
No, I'm speaking with someone who is not HIV positive, who you've been with for a life, you know the person.
Okay, so you're not, okay.
So this person is negative, you know that. So you pop out and you pop in. But when it comes on to someone who is HIV positive and you're having sex, it may kind of cut the whole vibe and all of that.
So you're saying, Fabian, then that excitement makes it impossible for you to
be with
negotiate
Exactly.
For me,
condom use.
Not negotiate, but in the extent, I don't want to lose the vibe.
That's right,
I don't want to
it's
cut
like-
the vibe. So
You know what?
Okay.
Let me back up and say here. I could possibly be in a relationship with someone who is HIV positive, but it would not be a good relationship because I'm going to be paranoid 24/7. I'm going to let you know why.
good point.
I have bleeding gums, right? I have bleeding gums. I brush my teeth, they bleed. I suck my gums too hard, they bleed. And there's always an opening somewhere. Alright? Oral sex might not happen. I don't like, condoms on the penis, great, but it's not something that I'd like to do 24/7. Like every single time I'm having oral sex with you, I have to put on a condom to use
right.
it. And then, I that's a hassle that I am not mentally prepared to deal with, especially because I have not been in many relationships. I've only been in one relationship. And so I wouldn't want for my next relationship to be one where I have to have condoms to have sex
Everything.
every single time.
And with everything.
When it comes on to penetrative sex,
Definitely.
all well and good with condoms, of course.
And your water-based fluid.
And water-based lubricant, but then I'm going to be very paranoid after it's over and done with. I'm going to have to go and get tested every 3 months. It's going to be a paranoid kind of relationship because I'm always going to be wondering, when is it that I will actually contract HIV?
And did you
from
slip
this
up at
person?
any point?
Did I slip up
Exactly,
at any
that's
point
what
in
I'm
time?
saying.
Did I? And,
Yeah.
and I'm sure the person that I am with would not appreciate my
Right.
paranoia.
For me, paranoia is on a broad prospect because if it should be that I'm going to be with someone who also is negative as myself being negative, of course I do my test every 3 months. I'm going to still think in the back of my head, what if this person is out there being promiscuous, not taking precautions in protecting themselves and then exposing themselves to me. At the end of the day, it's the same paranoia that goes on. But however,
You don't wanna
putting
have
it
them.
this way for me though, the partner who I have now, we sit and we discuss things like these. What if a slip up should happen that either of us should decide that we're going to cheat and it turns out that you become either positive or I become positive? Would you still want to be with me? I know it's all good now saying yes, but when the reality is, would it
yes. What are you gonna
actually
do then?
happen?
Would it play
Would
out?
it actually be that you would still want to be there? For now, I'm comfortable with the fact that yes, and to think that the person is saying yes, they would
Right,
want
right.
to, and it's the
But
same
the
thing
truth,
with
when
me.
it's
But
home.
when that harsh reality hits,
It's
would it
home.
be? So I do understand that for you, Robin, it would be a sense of paranoia. For me, it would also be. However, at the same time, if it's even with somebody who is negative, you're still going to have that paranoia because you're still going to want to get tested. You're still going to want to do risky things with that person, but is that person looking out for yours and their interests at the same time when they want to a little on the side for something that you
Well, that
don't
is
agree
true.
to?
That is true.
That is so true.
That is
That's
true,
so-
and then
that's
again, the
true.
same thing applies for the person who is also HIV positive, because it's just as how someone who is negative can become promiscuous. The person who is positive can also be promiscuous, and you have to be very careful where this is concerned, because I mean, in a relationship with someone who is HIV positive, you're there for support. You're there as a friend. You're everything to that person, because that person will be of the knowledge that guess what? Not everyone will want to take up someone who is HIV positive.
Exactly.
So you're there for just not for the sex, but for support, for counsel, for friendship, for everything. And it's therefore the onus is therefore on that person to be as careful as possible with you as you are as careful with them.
I think one thing, if anything, that this discussion has taught us is that you have to have a certain level of maturity to
How to deal with
date or to have sex or to be in an intimate relationship with someone who is HIV positive. I think
Definitely.
it takes a high level of maturity. You have to learn how to communicate very, very well. You have to master the art of communication. And some people aren't cut out for that.
That's true.
And so I applaud you, CJ, for being as open as you are. I like that you being a negative person in terms of HIV status, I like that you are so open to accept being in a relationship with
I
someone
applaud
who's
you.
HIV positive when we wouldn't necessarily have
Because we have our
accepted that.
question marks, but he's just saying that, hey, such
And
a
when it
It's
comes
like
down to it,
marketing.
everybody is just looking for love, sweetheart. Like everyone is just
Exactly.
looking for love. And if that's one way to get love, if that's one way that you can find someone who is who you can fall in love with, and go for it. You
Well,
know?
it's not saying that you're selling yourself short just for the case of love, because if some persons might look at it to say, okay, the person is ill, there's no cure for it. I'm looking for something long term. What if 2 months from now they're no longer there? It's kind of like the same thing of getting involved with somebody who has cancer. The only thing is that you might not be able to get it through sexual activities, but it's the same thing that someone with terminal cancer, that you know that at some point in time you're going to lose the person, but if you're there for that person all with everything to go through all of it, then you will see the person through until that day, but you will live every single day with that person until that day comes.
I also agree with you, because speaking on love, right, I was asking a friend of mine this question because I took a great interest in him, and I asked him in a way just to see what his response would be. I asked, what do you think of talking to or dating a HIV person? Would you have sex with a person?
An HIV positive person?
Yes, an HIV positive person. He said, cool. So that to me says, okay, cool, you can deal with it. Fine, I like your response. So that gives me the go ahead and say, okay, we can move on from there.
And it's not necessarily a response to say, bear in mind, you have to look at it. It might just be, oh, yeah, I'll just agree with it now because I want to get in your clothes, because they can protect themselves there and then. And at the same time, when the harsh reality comes on to being in that bed now with you, they're like, oh, shoot, the person did say that. You know what? And they get turned off. So they can say yes for the moment,
that is why you ask
and
the
then
question to see
actually not.
what is there really response.
No, but then again, you know, to be truthful, someone can say yes to hide their own status. Because you're HIV
Very
positive,
true.
you're going to say yes, of course, no problem, man, because you know you're positive, and if the person's positive, guess what? It's less thing to worry about.
I have a question for all of you guys. Do you think it's wise, before you guys have sex, to do an HIV test?
It is wise,
Discussion.
but it's not practical.
Exactly.
Discussion.
It's not practical, because for some people who are looking to hook up, you know,
Yes.
if you're going to hook up and then before you get to hook up, you're going to say, okay, let's both go and have
It's
test.
gonna be like a...
Yeah, that's
So-
it's wise, but it's not practical at all. It's not practical.
Like Robin said, it's not practical. So you can't expect that, okay, like for instance, you're on A4A and you're hooking up with someone and they say, okay, if they are very much clear on it, it's just a one night thing. And before that one night happens, they say, oh yeah, we need to do an HIV test before that. You're like, really?
They're just going to say, okay, sweetie, move on to the next person. They're not going to work with you. I think we have come to the end of another great podcast. I hope you guys learned something from us. If you'd like to connect with us, feel free to add us on Twitter, which is @Realflex. That's REALFLEXX. Feel free to jump over also to our blog, which is realflex.wordpress.com, or add us on Facebook, which is facebook.com/realflexstaysex. Have a great evening, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.